Welcome back. We're still watching Daybreak on this 7th day of November 2023. In 2 days' time, the President will be at the National Assembly to address a joint sitting of both Houses of Parliament on State of the Nation. Remember, constitutionally, he is required to do so every year to brief the country about the progress made by the government, but also on some specific issues that we'll be looking at. In studio to help us walk through this journey, we have Javas Bigambo, who is a governance analyst. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. It's good to see you. We have Peter Masara, the Member of Parliament for Suna West, and also member of the Budget Appropriations Committee. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you here. Diana Gishengo is the National Coordinator of the TISA. Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
The Institute of Social Accountability. And we have Samuel Karanja, the CEO from MSME Alliance. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
It's good to see you all here. And of course, waking up to the morning, you look at the dailies, the main stories on the Standard. It is on your way. On your own, rather. What did I just say? Cabinet secretaries tell Dialogue Team that things are beyond their control, and instead of putting in place measures to bring down the cost of living, Kenyans should brace for tougher times ahead. On the front page of the Daily Nation, it is the 300 shilling a litre for petrol on the cards. Meanwhile, the neighboring countries, including Tanzania, has reduced fuel prices for November, and amid the expectation that fuel prices will drop next week when the government releases its monthly review, given the recent decline in global crude prices, Energy Minister Davis Chirchir yesterday warned the prices could rise to historic highs due to the Israel-Hamas war. Well, it started as a joke some 2-3 weeks ago, people saying that we're going to hear blaming of the Israel-Hamas war. Now it's actually a reality, or rather, a real allegation or claim by the government that there will be impact. But also you've seen the weekly bulletin by the central bank also talking about the Israeli-Hamas war. But we'll be looking at that shortly from now. But let me begin with you, Honorable Masara, because we've been reading also reports about inflation of budgets. Specifically, the control of budget was talking about that her salary, the allocation for a state officer within the Office of the Control of Budget had been 3 times what she gets, and raising questions as to the integrity of the processes. So while you sit at the committee, are these things that you're able to flag, or what happens with that?
Actually, from where I sit, it is very difficult at the committee level to go into the nitty-gritties of individual salaries. At our level, we discuss the block figures of our department, and in most cases, we compare year by year what was allocated in the last financial year. Of course, there are usually increments, and then what is allocated in the current year. But it's quite unfortunate. I believe with the settlements, we'll be sitting with our parliamentary budget office, because there we have economists who are supposed to be analyzing these things on our behalf, and then we discuss them at the committee level. You know, our system, to be honest, we'll be discussing a supplementary budget within 3 or so 4 days. And you know how voluminous that document is. So, moving forward, and with the settlement of a state officer of that caliber, it shows there's a gap. And I know my brother, who is a specialist in governance, may help us to bridge the gap moving forward.
That's what you did there. But as you do so you're saying that you look at the figures for the previous year versus the current year, and usually there's an increment. Are we really budgeting, or you're just doing calculations?
The question is tricky, but the budget process is not a one-off thing. For example, the next year's 2024-2025 budget cycle has just started. But the epic of it is when figures are now being quoted. And usually it is 1 week it is 1 week. Last week, we were in the unpacking of the supplementary budget, which was around 3 days. This week, I think starting Wednesday, we'll be receiving reports from departmental committees on their budgets. So it starts at the parliament level. We start from the committee level, the different departmental committees before they come to the budget committee.
Right.
So we'll be analyzing what they have gone through as, for example, administration committee or agriculture. They have their own block budgets. They discuss it at their levels, then they bring it for verification at our level. So that's what we are going to do this week.
Okay.
Yes, before it is presented to Parliament, probably next week.
For the sake of the viewer, because you've said that the budget cycle has just started, I think it begins around September, October.
Yes.
So what has started? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense when you're analyzing and see that the budget is passed the 15th of June or around there. By the 1st of July, there are people who are applying Article 223 to spend on things that were not foreseen. Or it's an emergency. The supplementary budget that you're looking at right now, a bit of it is expenses that have been subjected to Article 223, meaning that people have already spent. They're coming for regularization. So what are we doing in this process? And specifically right now, as you start the cycle, what are the activities?
Without going into details, I can say our process is a good one. Because it involves public participation, it involves sector group involvement, those who are affected by the budget issues, and eventually the issue of policies, how government is going to raise money. So this, actually, the first phase of it is not numbers, it's policy issues and involvement of stakeholders. But the issue of 223 is issue of governance, because to be honest, there must be events which were not anticipated. But the drafters of the constitutions were very clear about it. There is a ceiling, a figure, which should not exceed a certain percentage of the actual budget, of which usually the executive is not adhering to that.
Some of them exceed.
Some of them exceed.
Right.
That's where the problem starts from.
And your committee will still approve it because...
We usually, like our last sitting, we did not approve everything. The ones which we approved had justification, and some were referred twice for the relevant officers, state officers, to explain why.
That is for the current supplementary budget or the previous?
The previous one.
Okay.
This one we have not got into the nitty-gritties. That's what we are going to discuss this week, starting Wednesday. Yes.
All right.
But the issue of 223, even if I was not in this studio, but last year I talked about it, that something need to be done about Article 223, because the executive usually misuse it.
What is that something?
Pardon?
What is that something you want done?
I want it to be improved to an extent where whatever figures to be used using Article 223 must be controlled by the National Assembly. If anybody decide to go beyond that, then they become culpable.
You know, I'm wondering because, yes, they spend, but there is a period provided for in the Constitution during which time they should report and regularize.
Yes.
And the National Assembly approves. So what is that control beyond that you would...
That's part of, you know, at times, for example, they take more time before reporting to Parliament. That's one gap. The Constitution is very clear. It should not be more than 30 days before they report to Parliament. But it takes even 90 days or 120 days. At times, even 5 months. Because, for example, now...
Even when Parliament is sitting?
Yes. You'll get somebody spent money a long time ago when he has the budget, then he reports later. And sometimes they go even using Article 223 to implement capital projects. I hope you can recall in the last supplementary budget, there were issues of capital project spent using, even the ASLA fund. You remember?
Right.
The first ASLA fund there was no budgetary allocation, but they used Article 223 to initiate it.
Oh, all right. I'm looking at the Article 223, and it talks about the national government may spend money that has not been approved if the amount appropriated for any purpose under the Appropriations Act is insufficient or a need has arisen for expenditure for a purpose for which had not been foreseen. But then says the approval of Parliament for any spending, and this article shall be sought within 2 months after the first withdrawal of the money. But if Parliament is not sitting, the approval must be sought during the time contemplated. The approval must be sought within 2 weeks after it next sits. And then also says, when the National Assembly has approved spending under Clause 2, an appropriation bill shall be introduced to the appropriation of the money spent. Diana, when you look at this, and obviously very many conversations have been going on. I mean, it's suspect that before mid-July, barely a month after passing the previous, the applying budget, the current budget, you're asking for more money. What is your comment about that? But also the claims by the control of budget that actually salaries are being inflated and the inability of Parliament to look at the nitty-gritties because of how it's structured?
I think this points to the fact that ultimately the current problem we are in is an expenditure and budget problem. That everything that goes wrong in this country is very well budgeted for and thereafter appropriated. I am actually surprised. I'm happy that the controller of budget has been able to flag her own salaries. I do not know which others she has not flagged. And even for somebody to have the audacity to inflate her budget, that seems like a scheme to entice her into something, which luckily she was able to foresee. But you've raised a very important question. The supplementary budget that Mheshimiwa and the Budget Committee are considering right now was already was expended in July. You know, I wonder how our treasury runs. It has the best economist. We have foresight. Even the president was confused about El Nino, but whoever advised him was wrong. So we should have trusted our expert, not God, and so on. But yet, despite all these things, we make such significant mistakes in the Ministry of Defense. Are we the ones who've gone to war in Hamas for there to be a supplementary budget around the Ministry of Defense? Ministry of Interior. We've not done anything to improve what is happening in Lamu, Tana River, Baringo. It was always there. We knew we needed to deploy. But all of a sudden, there's a huge increase. Education. Some of us gave our input since last year of what needed to be resourced around primary education, JSS secondary. Then it is an aha moment that we needed to correct. I don't even think, as the team we work with, Okoa Uchumi, we will finalize our analysis of the supplementary budget and the mischief therein by Thursday and release what we are seeing. But so far, it is somebody who needs to control more money. When we say Ministry of Interior, OP, it is that all of a sudden we have remembered certain offices of the spouses of the president and the deputy president needed budgets. That is what we are prioritizing right now. We have created a supplementary budget for education when most public schools have pending bills. The money that was budgeted to go into supporting talent development of our children around sports and music festival, drama festival, did not get to them. All of it was kept by headquarters, the same thing you see with athletes. So we have a problem of planning to steal. Ultimately, in our constitution as a parliamentary system, as a presidential system of government, the holder of the purse is Parliament. So when the controller of budgets raises such critical question, PBO is very resourced. We expect right now, the focus should not be on bombers, people who are discussing ideologies on how to reduce the cost of living in the future. We need to see action in Parliament of people being summoned, who planned to steal salaries, who stole the capital expenditure under supplementary budget, because Parliament is such a strong institution. I don't know why they keep being crybabies.
What is that?
Parliament cannot be cry. It's the strongest institution in this country. So by now, heads should be rolling. Where Parliament is usually comfortable that we have lost such significant amount of money that we are struggling, and they have not summoned anyone yet. We are still reading the dailies. They have everything. Parliament needs to step up and protect the pass that they hold. They are the holders of the Kenyan pass. They must protect that Kibeti with all the power that we have given them in the Constitution.
And the president will be addressing Parliament on Thursday. Samuel, what do you think the president should be addressing specifically? And you're touching on the question of budgeting, utilization of taxes, despite what Kenyans say, and life has become a bit expensive right now. What must the president address this time?
One of the things which, thank you, Sam, one of the things which I think the president should address is the issue of taxes. This government came to power through a narrative of bottoms up. And that's why they are sitting on that seat. And that narrative really gave hope to micro, small, medium enterprises who account for about 98% of all the businesses in this country. And they are the backbone of this economy. And they are the biggest victims of what is happening. And I think the president must focus on what he has done and what he's planning to do. And the promises which we were given as a sector, none of those promises have come to fruition. And I'll give you an example even with the Hustler Fund, which ideally was supposed to come and be injected in the economy to help a majority of the young people who want to venture into entrepreneurship. And I remember we had a show together here, Sabi, and we said it was a brilliant idea, but the execution was ill thought. And I think as I am going to agree with my sister here, because we have an issue with integrity. There are people who plan, especially when they're given positions, they plan to steal the public coffers. They are not there to help or to execute the plans or the policies which have already been put in place. When you look at also the taxes, we are heavily taxed. And the other day you saw Kenya Revenue Authority introducing enforcement teams which are coming to our shops who are ill prepared. And I believe it's very unconstitutional, because you cannot come and ask me for my receipts. You cannot, there's no communication between me and Kenya Revenue Authority. Kenya Revenue Authority has my email, they have my PIN, I'm registered with them, they have through iTax. Then they come to my shop and they're asking me for those documents without even prior communication. Write to me an email, we are coming, we need these documents from you, so that I can prepare them and I can present those documents to them in the manner that they want to. But there's no way you can come and invade my shop and ask my attendants to give you information in terms of compliance. And I think that's unconstitutional, and it goes back to Parliament. The modus operandi, the mode of operation of how they're executing that is very unconstitutional. So when you're looking at, after they visit our shops, then we get demand letters based on assumptions of what they think that we have done business. We were discussing with Mheshimiwa even about the turnover tax, you know. So if, for example, I'm a supplier and 2 million gets into my account and just 1.8 million I'm paying the supplies in China, so my profit is 200,000, then you are taxing me the whole 2 million shillings as it's my money. So when you're looking at those issues, the government must be able to come clearly. And I think I think they found what they never thought it was. Because it's like a surprise to them. It's not now. It's not the war year. It's a ha. So this is what is happening. So this is what the government is all about. So we don't even know. So how are we going to start? You know, and the execution part of it is really wanting. The other thing that we are looking at is how do we migrate from importation to production in this country, because we cannot tax people to prosperity. It has never happened in any country. You have to be able to facilitate the local industry, the cottage industries. You must be able to build from there. So you are looking at government heavily looking at taxing people to prosperity and saying that the GDP is going to go up and everything else. And the policies which are in place to help even the local manufacturers, they are not put in place. They are not well executed. I decided the other day with a few of my friends to go into small manufacturing. When you look at the compliances, it's like doing business in Kenya is a crime. So the moment you are starting to do something small, they are seeing like you have some coffers of money that you're supposed even to give to them in terms of compliance, even before you start. We talked about special economic zones, and it was a very brilliant idea. No, we don't have special economic zones. Now we are going to business industrial parks. So which is which and what is what. So in those business industrial parks, what is happening there? Ideally, the special economic zone is a place for micro, small, medium enterprises, you know, a guarded, sanitized place where you give innovation life. Yeah, you go there when you have probably an idea and the government facilitates you even in terms of taxes. You manufacture there with very good rates even of power. You're given good rates of power. So when you're manufacturing there, if your product is going to go to be consumed into the local market, you are given tax holidays, or you're given tax incentives. If it's going to go out of the country, then you are facilitated by the government, right, even through government-to-government arrangements. But what is happening? So His Excellency, the President, has a hard task to tell us the promises that he gave us, and what he's doing and what we are seeing. He has to be able to explain to that, because we put him in power as the hustlers so that he can be able to help us. Lastly but not least, Sami, when you look at the micro and the small who are now trading in the CBD, the other day they were told they are going to move from the streets. Well and good, fair enough. From the streets to where? What are these designated areas which the county government and the national government has put in place for those more than 10,000 people who are the street vendors in Nairobi to be put very well organized? And these groups are very well organized, Sami. They have their own chairpersons of different sectors. They are sectoral based. So we have even Watuwale Wanyamakima, then we have the tomato guys in Mudhurwa, those people. They are very well organized. So you are pushing them out of the streets to where? So the planning part of it, we want to see also the government executing that.
Okay, I hear you. So you're saying the turnover tax is still a bother, and we had a very elaborate conversation during that period of the Finance Act 2023. I'm just doing a simple calculation. The turnover tax is 3%, right?
Yes.
On the turnover. So if you have turnover of 2 million, like you said, that would be 60,000 shillings. If you have to apply that against the profit of 200, if that is the margin, then that comes to about 30%. And the argument was that you can either choose to pay the turnover tax or you choose to be paying the corporate tax, especially if you're a limited company. So that will still be 30%.
30%, right.
What is the challenge?
You see, I'm supposed to pay taxes from my gross profit. Fair enough. Not my net profit, right? So anytime that the government is eating into money that is not in my gross profit, which I'm supposed to pay. Let me give you an example. If, for example, you have given me a contract, or I'm supplying to you, and you put money, I'm supplying to another person, and you put like 2 million shillings, which the 2 million shillings has reflected in my account. It is not my money. My money there is 200,000. 1.8 million shillings is not my money. So why do you tax me the 2 million shillings? Against the 200,000, which is my money. So that is a conversation that we had with Kenya Revenue Authority. The money that is supposed to be taxed You shouldn't give me even options whether I should pay corporate tax or I should pay turnover tax. The money that comes to me, I should be able to verify and say, the 200,000 is my gross profit. The 2 million is not my profit. It has hit my account as 2 million shillings, but it's not my profit. My profit is 200,000, so tax me the 200,000.
But excuse me, maybe on the issue of turnover tax.
Yeah.
With the current situation, even the 200,000 may not be the profit. Because, you know, with the inflation rate, you quoted 30 days ago that you are going to supply at 18 bob. But by the time you're supplying, the prices has gone up. But you know you have an obligation to supply. So many business people are making losses. So at times the 2 million, there is no profit. There are losses of even 100,000. But still you'll have to pay tax because that money has hit your account.
So you think taxing the profits would be more ideal?
Of course, especially during such a period of, when the economy is not stable and everybody is aware that trading is a problem. Remember, we are only living in a country where impunity is being celebrated.
No, we'll get to that. But I want to hear Javas first here, because we also need to take a short break. But Javas, talk to us about all these concerns, because those paying taxes, hear him. He's complaining about how it's being done and how eventually it is being spent. You look at those that are budgeting, there are certain things they're not able to see because of the structure. And those that are looking at the accountability issues are saying, we're not getting the value for money. What's wrong with the system and us?
You know, we are living in a very climacteric period economically. And while this is a concern for every citizen, as it's been indicated here by my fellow panelists, we appreciate, and as you rightly put at the opening session of this panel discussion, that in about 2 days to come, His Excellency the President will be addressing a nation. Of course, summoned by the tolling bell of Article 132, Article 1C of the Constitution. And part of the issues that the President should apprise the country of on the issues of good governance are part of the issues that we are talking about here, that was raised even by the control of budget. Aspects about the principles of governance and those values in Article 10 of the Constitution are those issues that speak to the institutions we have and the practices there too. Now, while of course it is interestingly worrying when the control of budget says that she was, astonished to learn that her salary has been budgeted 3 times what she receives. Question is, what is the place of these critical institutions with regard to verification? Of course, all of us here have been perplexed by the confession by Mheshimiwa here that at the committee level, they are unable to read through with the toothpick about the specificities, that are within a particular budget. If it calls for a multi-committee convergence, let it be done. We always see that prior to tabling of the budget in Parliament, even the Parliamentary Committee on Budget retreats to scour through. What do they scour through? Now, beyond that, we ask ourselves then fundamental questions. If this is happening at the national level, what kind of rot is happening at various levels, even at the county level? Now, beyond this, when we are reflecting on the economic situation of the country, we appreciate that, yes, we are hurtling downhill economically. We need to find mechanisms, and I want to hope that His Excellency the President will proffer mechanisms of how the economy can have a turnaround. But let's face it, even from what my relative has just been speaking about, the issues to do with the kind of taxes that are paid by companies in this country. And imagine the situation faced by individuals or suppliers who have supplied various goods and services to county governments, and it's taken 2 years, 5 years, some even from 2013 have never been paid. Many of them have been auctioned. All these things have got a consequential effect on the productivity, the economic standing of an institution, a supplier, etc. I think time has come where we must look each other in the eye, speak openly, frankly, and see how we can make sure, for example, issues to do with pending bills at the county and national level. Really, must we continue? And as each year comes and goes, the pending bills are scaling up.
I see.
For how long will we continue being trapped in that kind of situation?
Okay.
Now, just yesterday, of course, we had...
Can I take a short break and then come back with,
Sure.
with you on this? Of course, you're watching Daybreak, and like I told you this week, on Thursday, the President is expected to address Parliament as required by the Constitution, and he'll be talking about different issues, including reporting on measures taken and progress achieved in the realization excuse me, of national values referred to in Article 10, published in the Gazette, the details of the measures and progress under subparagraph 1, which is just that, and submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the public. We take a short break. When we come back, we continue with the conversation of what to look out for during the address by the President.